Georgia is looking to be the first program to three-peat since Minnesota did so in the 30s, although I think Army technically claims a three-peat in the 40s, but the point is, it's really hard to three-peat in college football. It's been a long time since it last happened. They'll have to reload on both sides of the ball. They rank 80th in the country in returning production, which comes out to 61%. If we break that down on both sides of the ball, 52% comes back on offense, that's 109th in the country. Defensively, 70% of their production returns, which is 42nd in the country. And we know that Georgia's ability to reload is up there with the best in the country, if not the best, especially over these last couple of years. In 2021, they ranked 92nd in the country in returning production. While they had 84% production returning on offense, only 39% returned on defense, which was 126th in the country. They do have to figure out their new QB this year. It seems like Carson Beck is going to be the guy to take over that starting job. He was a 4-star prospect in the class of 2020, pro-style quarterback with nice size, 6'4", 215, and it helps that he'll have one of the best weapons in the country in tight end Brock Bowers. In 2021, as a true freshman, Bowers was the highest graded tight end in the Power 5 per PFF and was the most valuable tight end last year, leading the position in receiving yards, yards after catch, and receiving yards after contact. They will continue to find ways to give him the ball, whether it be a jet sweep, a screen. They just need the ball in his hands. He's also not bad in run support. His run blocking grade was a 73.8. That was 7th among all Power 5 tight ends. Let's now look at the schedule. Sports Illustrated ranks Georgia's strength of schedule 63rd in the country. It would have been higher if the SEC hadn't forced the cancellation for the home-and-home series with Oklahoma. So their non-conference definitely doesn't look great. Their first couple weeks of the year, they actually open with 4 home games: UT Martin, Ball State, South Carolina, and UAB. The South Carolina game is interesting. Spencer Rattler seemed to find a little bit of a rhythm to end the regular season last year. Against Tennessee, he went 30-37 for 438, 6 touchdowns, no picks. So on paper, that looks great, but we have to give that context. Tennessee finished the season last year 127th in the country in passing yards allowed. The very next week, versus Clemson, Spencer Rattler was 25-39 for 360, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Clemson was 76th in the country in passing yards allowed. So a little bit tougher competition in the pass game, and you start to see those turnovers come to light. And then last year against Georgia, and they played early on in the season, Rattler was 13-25 for 118, no touchdowns, 2 picks. And Georgia actually finished last year 54th in passing yards allowed. But they blitz, they get after you, they make sure you're not comfortable in the pocket. Back to the schedule: at Auburn, home versus Kentucky, at Vanderbilt, then the bye week. Then in Jacksonville against Florida, home versus Missouri, home versus Ole Miss, at Tennessee, at Georgia Tech. So we got back-to-back games against Ole Miss and Tennessee. If Georgia's going to slip up, it could be one of those 2 games, at least if they're going to slip up in the regular season. Ole Miss can sling it, and so can Tennessee. And that's the key to beating Georgia, is to pass the ball. You're not going to beat Georgia running the football. Over the last 2 seasons, Georgia is allowing less than 80 rushing yards per game. The only game the Bulldogs have lost in the last 2 seasons was against Alabama in the 2021 SEC Championship, and Bryce Young threw for 420. Last year, the only reason Ohio State would have even won that game was because of CJ Stroud dicing them up through the air. Then you have those Ohio State receivers. You beat Georgia through the air, not on the ground. So really, Ole Miss and Tennessee are some of the biggest threats on this schedule because of what they can do offensively. So right now, I am leaning that Georgia will go 12-0 in the regular season. I don't think this schedule is really that difficult. But like we mentioned earlier, three-peats are incredibly hard to come by in college football. We haven't had one in the modern era. Georgia's the king. They're the current gold standard in college football. And we're either going to have history with the first three-peat in the modern era, or we're going to have someone else at the top.